I want to start with talking about Max Verstappen
Yeah.
because on our wheel to wheel show, Chris Mendel and I on Wednesday, I said it looked like Max was driving in the dry and everyone else was
It's
in
in
the
the wet.
wet.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
when he was going around those corners
Mm.
and he had a completely different line and was going around the corners on the inside, like turn one,
Yeah.
faster than and everybody else. It was crazy. And I even said something like he even had he had a special set of tires that no one else had.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So
And he had a push to pass, of course.
well, yeah, he did have that, but and it was also like when he would get through the end of the corner. You think if you're pushing it, you might have especially in the weight, you might have a little wiggle or whatever because you've gone to the
No, he
very
was on
edge.
rails.
He never had. There was no drama at
Yeah.
all. It was crazy.
I think it was
No
one.
understeer, no oversteer.
No. And I mean, I think it was a statement and a half, given the sort of backlash he's had in the last few weeks about his dangerous driving and about his sort of, get to the apex first, push people wide at Coda.
Yeah,
He's had a lot
exactly.
of criticism, but you can't criticize that. And even, Ralph Schumacher, Eddie Jordan have all come out and said Norris is done. Norris is, history in terms of chasing Verstappen.
Well, it's funny you say that because when you weren't with us on the post show, were you? That's right. You were doing Trans Am.
Mm.
So I said on the post show, I was like, Lando did not look very champion like
No.
in that race, and he hasn't a lot recently. And I don't know, Chris Medlin's point was on the post show was like, look, these guys are all still learning their way. I say these guys being McLaren, right? Still learning how to be a championship team.
Yes.
And they're probably not probably they're
Well, none of them currently involved have pretty much tasted that success.
that's right. I
including
mean,
Lando.
they're in the driver's seat for the constructors championship, but Lando hasn't been there. But I feel like he needs to be more aggressive or
Yep.
strategic or a little bit of everything, and he's just not quite there, is he?
No, I don't think so. But that said, I'm hard pushed to think of anybody beating
Max,
Max at the moment. I mean, there was one point in the Brazilian Grand Prix where I think Max came out behind Perez, like they were 14th and 15th.
And
know,
moments later,
moments later, but also by the end of the race, Verstappen, is winning, and Perez is still 14th. I mean,
yeah.
It was really quite a footnote for everybody looking at Max and his superiority. Always the leveler is the rain. And, it doesn't matter how good your downforce in your car is or whatever it might be. It's when you're in rain, it's purely down to the driver.
Yeah.
It helps if you have a good car, but everybody, Hulkenberg had a decent car.
Admittedly, in fact, some of the comments during the post-race show last week, I was gushing about Max, and everybody said, hey, well, let's not forget he had a little bit of luck. But especially when you compare it to McLaren, yeah, he had luck, if you'll call it that, because the timing of the safety car, the right after McLaren had gone in for the pits to get new tires, Max and the Alpine team both got a free pit stop.
Sure.
But you can say that they were making an educated guess. Look, we were in the rain, right? What are the chances of a safety car happening? They're very high.
Mm.
And if you can hold off, always, to me, that's the no-brainer. You hold off as long as you can, as long as your lap times aren't going crazy bad. And so as a team, again, Red Bull did exactly the right thing. Let's wait. And they waited, and Max was in the position. But when you see him go drive that drive, you go, there's no luck there.
No.
And maybe you have the best car, but there's no luck.
But the other big story, obviously, is Alpine. I mean,
I know.
0 to hero.
They Gasly on the podium?
I know. No, I mean, incredible. What a turnaround. And it's not over yet, but I mean, they were selling the team at the beginning of the season, and everybody was jumping ship, and they were headless chickens, and
they were a disaster.
They're selling Renault, and it looked like a disaster to be involved in them or in Alpine. But two great results.
Yeah, and did you hear after the race all the interviews with Ocon and Gasly, and they were talking about They were like brothers almost. It was beyond.
Yeah, they're friends again now.
Well, they were because they were sharing this podium in the moment.
Sure.
But they were talking about how they had driven in the rain and snow together when they were young. It was really
I don't think this. I think the media's built up this hate. Yeah, sure, they've been rivals. Max and Norris have been rivals. But I don't think they're both adults and they're both in the sport they love. They may not be the besties, but
I got a stat for you about Esteban Ocon. He's led 14 laps. That's more laps than Checo Perez, who's led 1 this year.
Oh my God!
Think about that stat.
That's terrible.
Oh, I know. I don't mean to I'm not laughing at Checo.
No, it's just the truth.
It's just a crazy stat. So, anyway,
it's enough to make a racing driver swear.
No, but they can't do that.
No, because you get fined $10,000. Shut up! Yeah, see, there you go. You get fined €10,000 for uttering the word.
For any of the words.
Any of those words.
Any of those words. Now, if you're the boss of F1 or FIA, you can probably say
yeah. And you can say that it's rapper language.
Rapper language.
Which Hamilton really liked.
But anyway, I wanted to start with Max because you and I didn't get to talk about it.
No, we didn't.
And I wondered if you felt the same way or if you.
Oh yeah, I left that going. Okay, I've said a lot of tough stuff about Max in the last few rounds, and I hold by what I said. I mean, I think he was out of order, both in Mexico and at Coda. And I do believe that the FIA weren't consistent, and I do believe that Max, although he is driving to the rule, which Schumacher has done, and that's I get it, right? So he hasn't broken any rules, but it needs to. We can't keep racing where the outside guy gets done every time.
I mean, you've said this. I'll put your own words. I mean, he did drive by the rules in Austin.
Yes,
right?
He did,
and
twice.
Right. He drove by the rules in Austin, but
he didn't in Mexico.
But he didn't in Mexico. That's right.
It was dangerous.
And that's right. And it was dangerous. So,
but you can't to answer your question. I was in awe just as everybody else was. 17th to a win is ridiculous, and not one of the easiest tracks on one of the easiest days.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was a sunny day and he had an advantage of any sort. Because like back in the days where Ferrari or McLaren or Mercedes were just their power plant was more reliable. They down the straights they were 10 mile an hour quicker. None of the above was true in Brazil.
Yep. All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll be. By the way, when we go to break on the radio, we're live on YouTube if you want to join us there. But we'll be back after these messages. It is dangerous, very dangerous.